time to go crazy as we step into the mind of madness. It's been a while since I've had a chance to do this show, and the brain juices have been flowing lately. So it's a good time for me. Good time to share. Good time to kind of reflect on what's going on in the world around me, and it's kind of what the show is all about, right? Uh, and today I kind of wanted to focus on an interesting team that's on the testing block that though functionally isn't super exciting as far as what it does. It's kind of, I mean, it's exciting as far as holy crap, what's the pacing on this? It's exciting and holy crap, what's the limited cost behind this? Um, but ultimately, what it does is stuff we've seen before. So it's not a great deal of new behind it. That aside, yes, I do wish I was at U.S. Nationals right now. Um, but shout out to Emily and Tom, who are out there having fun. Jay, who's out there judging. It's a good old time, I'm sure. And hopefully next year there's a lot less snow and a lot less sickness in my house for me to be able to get out there and enjoy Origins as I've enjoyed the past couple years. That said, I've kind of gotten my click back. My head has been flowing around the game. Part of it is anticipation of Canadian Nationals. It kind of picks up around this time. Black Panther and the Illuminati has really kind of gotten the brain juices flowing as well because there's a lot of figures I want to make use of. One of the hard parts was Rebirth was there's nothing in Rebirth that on its own made me go, oh, must play this now. And that kind of stifled, I think, to a certain degree, some of the things I've been thinking about. Quite a few figures in Black Panther have already started kind of making their way on those online tournaments. Specifically, the collector is starting to make some noise. I know Daniel Powell's been playing it quite effectively. A lot of people are talking about the Black Panther, and it has actually won an online win map as well in pairs. Black Panthers work in pairs because that's just how they work. So ultimately, it's a time where with the new set and a new set that's really strong and hopeful for competitive building, that we come up with some new ideas. As well, personally, I have been playing getting a lot of time in evening video gaming, playing a lot of what are called Metroidvania games. And specifically on my other stream, I've been playing video games, the Castlevania video games, the birthplace of it. But they're like, Metroid and Castlevania at one point called, at a point we like to call Symphony of the Night, kind of took both of their ideas and went, we're the same thing now. And people refer to them as Metroidvanias, although Metroid is the originator of the open world, side-scrolling platform world, as it were. Symphony of the Night just kind of added it to the Castlevania world, and a lot of people really love that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Heroclix has been on my mind a lot. And this is one of those things I've noticed in the past couple of years, this past couple months especially, as a Heroclix player and a Heroclix content creator, I have find myself oftentimes just talking about the game constantly. That's not a bad thing. I do enjoy the game. But I felt like the past couple months I've been blasé. I wasn't able to really get my brain juices flowing, for instance, I Mind of Madness. And I find myself unmotivated when there isn't a big tournament on the horizon. Of course, Canadian Nationals, whenever that gets announced, is bound to be coming around the corner any second. And I'm starting to think ahead to that. Now, at this point, it's almost impossible that that it isn't in the next rotation, which is the post what if cut. And out there in U.S. Nationals, they're actually still playing in a world where Hawkeye still exists. So it's a weird time right now for play, but it's an interesting time for me for building. So the last build I've really spent a lot of time on was my Black Panther Billy Batson build, the Justice Society one, and I've come to a place where I like that build, and me and Tom really in an alcohol fueled excitement came up with it. So it was good, it was fun, and I can't wait to actually give it a test. Testing has been a little bit weak. Amber hasn't been in the mood to test, and with U.S. Nationals being currently going on, my usual open Sundays in the apartment aren't going to be happening. So, at least until everybody's back and settled, and we can start getting into a flow, and hopefully we can get some of the outer towners coming to my kitchen table. It's a little harder for us to get out there, as we would need to find sitters and everything to watch the kids. So I kind of opened the kitchen table. So we carry now to this current state. Into the mind of madness, we step in, we find myself crazy, and we find myself always talking about Heroclix. And it's a good and rough thing. I need a break every so often, but at the same time, I've taken upon myself as a content creator to put myself out there and make myself available. And generally at minimal costs. With these, if you're on the Discord, you have my utmost attention. I love you guys, and you get my attention as best as I can provide it. Between the hours of 10 and 6, I'm gonna be sporadic because I work. I have a job on top of this, guys. I'm not making that. I'm not rolling the PewDiePie money. But if you want to know what kind of money or get an idea of what money we're kind of making, Edward Sheldon did a whole podcaster for Heroclix financial report. And the report is not much. The report numbers are very small. I'm not making a living off of this. So, that aside, I want to go to the team that this tends to happen. Two things happen when I build a team that I really like. One, I made a joke and the joke worked. Okay. Thing two, something in Sealed happens, and I look at it and I go, how can I maximize on this? And then I feel like I have to try it. And it's always something to a degree where the effectiveness of it in Sealed is amazing. And then you think about giving it the tools under your control that, like in Sealed, you don't have control of the tools you're going to have. The tools you can have are going to be when you open the pack and say, okay, what do I have here? That doesn't always work in your favor. But when you play in Constructed, you have your tools, you know how to get your tools, you know how to acquire your tools. So, that said, what happened? Well, I pulled a Medusa. I believe it was a pre-release Sealed where I pulled a Medusa. I did not play in the release Sealed because I was judging that tournament. I had the buy. I would play the buy matches, but for the most part, I didn't play a lot. But I looked at Medusa and I said, there's so much going on here that's just not being addressed. For one, her effect is just bonkers. And it's even more bonkers if you can find a way to up her reach. And let's talk about that. So, this team that I have come up with is actually, it's found its way to the Pauper Circuit. The Pauper Circuit being commons and uncommons. It found its way to the Ultra Chase Thanos event that happened during U.S. Nationals. So let's get into it. So this is okay. Unfortunately, Avengers, Black Panther, and the Illuminati hasn't been fully updated on HC Realms. Hopefully, the volunteers get a chance to get to that soon enough. Anyway, that's not the important part. The important part here is Medusa. Now, this dial is very uninteresting. She's got sidestep. She's got 2 range. She's got precision strike, energy shield, leadership, Avengers, Illuminati, and Humans ruler keywords. She's got a pretty awesome second click. Her third click, and then when you get into the 4th and 5th, it's like, well, she's about to die, isn't she? But, that all said, this dial on its own is not what makes her great. It's her trait, the Living Locks. This gives her the ability to say free, generate a living hair bystander. Well, what's a living hair bystander, you ask? Well, if you are asking, you're... Here we go. Now, it's listed as a bunch of KOs. In fact, the bystander itself is listed on the card as having a bunch of question marks. In addition to which, yes, it is autonomous. They don't have a symbol for autonomous on HC Realms just yet. But the hair itself has two traits on this little bystander. The first one, it's still attached to me after resolution of an action. If living hair is not adjacent to the character that generated it, KO it. All right, I get it. If Medusa's not next to it, it's gone. Okay, I get that. Next, an extension of myself. Living hair has the printed combat values and can use the standard powers displayed on the dial of the character that generated it, projected pulse wave. Now, what are those stats, you ask? They're these. Couple of important things now. First, generating the hair is a free. And one of the beauties of generating characters or generating bystanders, when you generate them, you get to use them. And because it's a free action generation, it is very low maintenance in order to get this. We're going in a direction. Now, if you look at the team I have here, I have a Malice in there and 20 points missing. The Malice is supposed to be Voyager. The 20 points is an AIM red agent. We'll talk about that in a second. Like I said, they haven't fully updated this thing. But let's talk about what we have. So we have 3 Medusas. So the trick is we got to take Medusa 3 times and get her up there. Now, initially, this is started as an Inhumans theme team with 4 Medusas and a Lockjaw. That's an all-in strategy. It's just like, this is going to work or I'm going to die. There's no in between on that, right? Went a different direction. Because Medusa's got the Avengers team ability, we have a brand new Avenger capable of doing this carrying as well, named Voyager. Now, can you believe this figure is a common? She's 50 points, Avengers, Elder of the Universe, and Cosmic Keyword. She's got the I Sense a Greater Challenge trait, which gives her a click 0, which in the competitive metagame, count on it. She got the Avengers Assemble trait, which says Passenger 1 or Passenger 3, but only to carry characters that share a keyword with her, and she may carry characters with Flying or Giant. Awesome. What's her special attack? Draining my powers of teleportation, telekinesis, but only to place characters. When Voyager uses it, neither she nor the target character square need line of fire to the destination square. She breaks the rules of placing characters with telekinesis, which is why she can only do it to characters. This is amazing. And that first stat click, it's not bad, but 18 defensing is easy to hit if you can arrange the close combat effort on it. 20 defensive range, not bad. She's also packing the Power, Cosmic, and Avengers team ability. So if we look at that 0th click, which is this one right here, this is the 0th click, as we'll call it, because it's actually labeled as a click 0. We got 14 movement with phasing. And count on the fact as well, because you got the Avengers team ability, if all you're doing is moving, that's a 15 movement. Carrying 3 Medusas, that goes down to a 12 movement. 12 movement phasing carrying is nuts. That's all there is to it. It's insane. And we're looking at outwit with that. There's nothing wrong with outwit. We know that. Let's get on with our lives. So, you ask, what do we do? Well, what we do is we take Voyager and we put her next to 3 Medusas. Those 3 Medusas say, okay, time to go, get carried by Voyager. Then I'm going to drop 3 hairs and attack. And this isn't the first turn. This is just the plan. Okay? The plan at some point is to have 3 Medusas who are next to a Voyager, walk up to an opponent, drop some hair, and whip their hair back and forth and murder your opponent. That's the goal. That's the long-term goal of this team. So, what do we need to do to make this a little better? Well, I came up with a couple options. Initially, I was talking to some friends. Some ginger friends who wear kilts to tournaments. You know who you are, PJ. I have to be gross for a second. Sorry, guys. And we decided that AIM agents would be a good idea. Initially, we were going to go with 2 AIM red agents. I kind of wanted to avoid the whole positioning problem with them. So I went with an AIM blue and an AIM red. Now, what is an AIM blue and AIM red? AIM blue is this guy who's got sidestep, some late dial psychic blast. You're not going to see that late dial. Mastermind and probability control. And then this administration and research division trait. Leadership If AIM Blue Squad is part of a named theme team, friendly characters with the AIM keyword consider other friendly characters within 3 squares and lines of fire to be adjacent while using enhancement in power, leadership, and support. So then, with an AIM Blue Squad and an Avengers theme team, because the AIM guys in this set have the Avengers keyword, the AIM Red Squad can now just be within 3 squares in the line of fire of anything he wants to empower / enhance. Awesome. Gnarly. I love it. And the AIM Red Squad, because I have to go back here. $20 points, 4 range, nothing special, some sidestep. It's a pretty garbage dial when you look at it at face value. AIM Avengers Hydra Soldier keywords. Security and Tactics Division is a trait. At the beginning of the game, for all characters with this trait, choose Empower or Enhancement. They can use the chosen power of this game. If they're part of a named theme team, you can choose both. Great. I got an Avengers theme team. I have Empower and Enhancement, which, given Voyager's penchant for being able to bring me close, means I might actually be able to use that 2 range with Enhancement in the right situations. Again, as we discussed, this is subtle. Now, unfortunately, the AIM Squad guys, they move terribly on their own. So we need some extra guys to carry. So what did we do? We went with good old Giant Girl. 10-point Giant Girl. She's got charge. She's got combat reflexes. She can Colossal Retaliate. If she kills somebody, she's going past this click. I'm not going to count on it. She's also Indomitable. So you can carry and then use the theme probs in a pinch and not worry about taking the push damage. And you have the AIM Blue Squad adding to that extra prob what you need to hit. And that is not all the prob we have. See, we talked about this whole move and attack not being on the first turn. What do we do on the first turn? Well, I want to point to an important element of the Living Hairs thing. The It's Still Attached to Me trait. It's after the resolution of any action. If Living Hair is not adjacent to the character that generated it, KO it. So what this means is the Living Hair can move away from Medusa, but as long as it comes back, it can be adjacent, or it can still stick around. So that means if you actually do a square count, your object has to be 5 squares away from the starting area. Medusa is in the front row of your starting area. I wish I was better at Roll20 than I am, but I might have. You know what? Screw it. Anyway, I want you to visualize. No, I'm going to pull up Excel. I'm going to pull up Microsoft Excel because I'm bad at visualizing this as a whole. So, but you start Medusa at the front of your starting area, and we're just going to go with the, this is going to be, we're going to label it there, and then we got, purple will be our starting area. We're going to grid this bad boy up. All right, beauty. So, for visualization's sake, M is Medusa. XXXXX is an object. Okay, it has got to be at least 5 squares away from the starting area. So, where Medusa is, that's going to be our Living Hair. All right. So now you see where the gap closes in. If you haven't been able to visualize this yet. So now we have 8 movement with the Living Hair because that's what Medusa has for movement. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Pick up the object. 5, 6, 7, 8. We're back where we started. We now have a light object. We're going to assume for a light object. Okay. So we now have this here. Right? So what else does Medusa have on her first click? Sidestep. So we take our sidestep, get rid of this. This is now a Medusa square. Now, I want to point out that nothing we have done is counted as an action because Medusa creating the thing as a hair is a free action. Okay? The Living Hair is autonomous, so this doesn't count towards our action total yet. And now I'm going to take an action on my action total with Medusa. Medusa is now equipped. I think that's not how you spell good. Yeah. Okay. So Medusa, one of her other strengths, on top of being able to be carried and attack, is the fact that she can basically arm herself as long as the object you're sending her way is a light object. Not too shabby, if you ask me. So, what do we do with that information? We add some gems. Specifically, I decided the reality gem and the time gem were the best bets. Reality gem adds perplex and TK. The TK is more of a minor thing. Ultimately, the TK can potentially give you an extra attack should you happen to pull a 10. I'm okay with this. I am perfectly okay with this. I have no problems with this idea. All right? The perplex is the main reason we're adding this. There's probably cheaper ways of getting perplex, but I like the gems. I'll look through the rings to adjust if I have to. I mean, if I do that, then I just put another ring on the other Medusa on the other side of this whole thing. Because only 2 of the Medusas right now are getting... We're on a budget. We're partially on a budget here. I don't have to be. I just happen to be because it's kind of a personal challenge. Next up, we have the time gem. Why the time gem? Guys, it's a problem. We have theme prob on this team. We have the aim blue squad. We have the time gem. Why not add more prob? Because you just need to hit. In addition to Medusa with 3 range is more of a threat than Medusa with 2 range. These are facts. Alternatively, an option I was coming up with possibly is one of the Medusas getting the power gem. It's subtle, I know. The team's already pretty subtle. Give me a break here, guys. I don't know if you noticed, but this team does a lot of damage. The reason I opted out of the power gem is because it's very Medusa. If Medusa gets it, she's not sharing anything with it because the Living Hair gets printed stats. As well, if I use the reality gem, the perplex can go to the hairs on the turn that they're attacking. So, put all that together, and we have a 300-point on-board team. Now, because I am who I am and I have the collection I have, there's likely to be a stack of Super Friends on the sideline. There are no ID cards on this. There are already objects, though. So, alternatively, if we were to make changes to this, we could take the gems, possibly turn them into any rings that give us similar effects. I doubt we're going to get prop, but perplex is a possibility. I have to take a good solid look at all the rings. I haven't seen them all. I'm not at U.S. Nationals. The only one I have available to me right now is a Remaker ring. I hopefully will have a full collection soon, as I have made some arrangements to get one. Also, I've made arrangements to get a full set of the U.S. Nationals con exclusive. So, awesome. Excited about that. Cool. Gnarly dudes. So, I wanted to do one extra thing on this. This team is very unique in the fact that it can compete. It is very strong. I have tested it not necessarily on the top tier of the meta, but with some fairly strong teams. And the results have been pretty consistent. My opponent just looked at me going, hey. This is one of those teams, if you play Magic, we call it the red deck syndrome. It either wins hard or it loses hard. Because once it's got a whole head of steam going in, but it doesn't have a lot of defensive, it can't take a punch. It can dish it out, but it can't take it. Very glass cannon effect to it. So be aware of that when you're playing a team like this. That aside, the unique thing I want to do is I want to take us to Troll and Toad. And I want to price this whole team out because it was kind of exciting. Now, I have priced it out on the option of taking the power ring if you prefer that. If I take that out, the price goes down a lot because Troll and Toad has the gem carrying rares at a fairly high price. It's a fairly high price. That said, Medusa's times 3 on Troll and Toad pricing comes down to $4.47. Voyager is 50 cents. AIM Blue Squad, $7. AIM Red Squad is about 60 cents. This is all U.S. prices, so if you're watching in Canada, sorry. The Captain America with his gem is going to be $15. The Black Bolt with his gem is going to be $16. And 2 Giant Girls is going to be $10. Grand total, $53.50. Now, for a competitive team that consists of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 figures, 2 of them being Colossals, $53.50 is very low end. To further that, if you want to spend the last 20 points on a second AIM Red Squad, that's the way you want to aim. To make it a little bit more aggressive, you drop that price by another $30, and you got to. I personally prefer the idea of the gems making the hairs work. That's just me. It's not just me. That's just kind of the reality of it. This is the way I think it kind of needs to happen. So, put it all together. For a competitive team in any collectible game, this is a very low pricing team. And this is one of those things. Like, so many people, they balk at the fact that the team that won cost $300 to $1,000. And what they fail to capture is how those figures may have been acquired. Because if you think about the fact that a case, I'm going on Canadian dollars right now. Let's say a case cost me $250. It did cost me $250 Canadian. So US, we're looking $200. Say that might be a little bit too conservative. We'll say might actually be cheaper than that. That aside, you're looking at a $200 investment on a case. If you happen to get the chase that you want to run, great. It didn't cost you anything extra. For you to get the individual figures to get the team when it's really big and wins, that's going to cost you a lot of money. I don't believe in that fallacy, personally. Like, if you're into Heroclix, you're into the game, you acquire the pieces that you acquire, you put together the teams you want to play, you trade, it's collectible. So you trade figures to get more figures. You put a little bit of money into it if it's a collectible team. Cool. But when a team like this can exist in the metagame and has every single tool that is required to be potentially competitive, how can we complain? The highest rarity on this team, gems included, is a rare. I haven't, now this is, of course, I personally haven't included my phone's buzzing and I gotta shut it off. I personally haven't included my super friends on this because that's a personal choice. I will miss 3 attacks in a turn. I will make a critical miss in an inconceivably bad time. But ultimately, this is one of the teams that's on the test field. This is one of the teams I'm considering playing, barring any sort of bad results on it. But this leads me to my bad matchups. Yes, the Vulture. The universally bad matchup for any team that doesn't have a super high defense or a ton of clicks of health on a single dude who can manage to take 12 damage in the face and not worry about it. Screw that figure. All of that being what it is, there's going to be some wins and some losses you have to accept. Subsequently, some teams have solved the Vulture problem. And as a result, they look at the Vulture problem and say, it's not that big a deal anymore. And those are the teams that you're also as likely to see as the Vulture. So this leads into accepting bad matchups. It's at the point where there's about 30 different base builds of teams that you can come up with that, and when I say base builds, I'm not talking about archetypes. There's like 3 archetypes in any game, given at any given time. Anybody who tells you more is kidding you. It's aggro balance control. That's generally how it goes. Or aggro combo control. So you go full on, you control the pace of the game, or you have a weird combination that just happens. It's any collectible game. And then there will be sub-archetypes of each archetype. There will be 7 different types of aggro that'll work in different ways. There'll be 7 different types of control of the game. Don't die, one-man armies controlling the pace of the game sort of situation. So when you got 30 different versions of the archetypes that exist in the game of Heroclix, you go down, and you say, okay, this one beats me, but I feel like I have enough matchups against this one. And you have to start playing the head game of, what am I going to run into? And what does this mean? And once you're in the place where it's like, okay, this is what's going to happen, and this is what I'm going to run into, so I kind of have to accept this matchup existing, you're there. You're fine. You're okay. Yeah, and that's just generally the place we're at right now. And while I was doing this, Gen Con events are up in the Heroclix community Facebook group. Howard is making the rounds on Facebook right now, talking about events that Rocker's running for Gen Con. Personally, I won't be there, but Gen Con's a great old tournament. If you're there, or tournament, it's a great old gaming environment. If you want to check it out, check it out. And if you're a Heroclixer, the events are up. It looks like there's going to be Battle Royales, a sealed event, Rock Regional, and it'll have like the latest pricing. So good on them. So yeah, accepting a bad matchup is just one of those things you have to do in a wide open metagame. And in order to best accept it, you have to practice your bad matchup until you're tired of it. And then when you're tired of it, practice it some more. Because ultimately, that's how you're going to learn how to play in that matchup. That's how you're going to learn to get through edge cases in that matchup. That's how you're going to learn how lucky you have to get in that matchup, or how unlucky your opponent has to get, or how unlucky you can be in that matchup in order to make it work. You have to play the bad matchup the most once you understand where your matchups sit. And I think this team is going to have a terrible matchup up against the Vulture, but could potentially get the jump on them. It's 6 and 10 and one or the other, I think that is the phrase. So it's going to go on the test block, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all rolls out. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you guys for watching. If you are watching live, if you're watching in the car archive, appreciate that. Check us out at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. You can get access to our Patreon Discord, or come July 7th, access to our Patreon Hangout, where we spend a little time on Google Hangouts and live chat with our patrons, and just answer any old questions they have. They don't even have to be about the game of Heroclix. They don't even have to be about the channel. That said, have a wonderful evening. And remember, guys, start thinking, start brewing, start coming up with the teams that you want to play, because you got to get figuring out those bad matchups and get that practice, because practice will make your team better and your mind nice and mad.